Hi, I'm Evelyn, and this is my progress report video. So I'm served at High Tech Elementary, North County, and they are a project-based learning school that serves approximately 442 students in grades K through 5. They're a public school charter school. So my first research question is how might fine arts and illustration be used as a storytelling tool to leverage empathy, self-identity, and social justice? My second one is how can elementary school art teachers develop lesson plans that encourage equitable thinking? So why did I choose these research questions? So I was placed with Miss B, the art teacher at High Tech, and I last year through College Core, I also worked with another art teacher. So I have a lot of experience in the art classroom. So I was wondering how I could leverage this unique setting to surround my research question with. And so there's this generalization that art is not as important as other school subjects. So I wanted to kind of deconstruct the idea of cheap crafts and the fact that art is used as a way to fill time and instead prioritize art as a core subject. And I acknowledge a growing effort to incorporate diversity and multicultural ideas in the classroom, but how can we still steer away from doing multiculturalism? So, like highlighting different multiculturalism concepts to actually incorporating and fully integrating it into the classroom. So, what informed my art cues? Personally with my lived experiences and positionality. So, for as long as I can remember, art has always been an outlet for me, and it's always made me feel a lot more confident and empowered in school. And this mainly comes from my mom, who encouraged my art making as a form of creativity and expression. And I also have a background in Chinese calligraphy painting, and I have been privileged enough to be connected with my heritage through art. And as someone who really finds value in connecting your culture or your identity with art, I feel like I would have appreciated more POC and cultural representation during my public high school art school experiences. The social justice standard that my research complies with is Identity 1, IDK to 2.1. I know and like who I am and can talk about my family and myself and names some of my group identities. So I'm working with kindergarteners, so I do have to keep that in mind as I approach my research. And so just kind of getting them started and very simple ideas of developing a general cultural knowledge of their multiple identity groups. So the first literature source is Teachers' Lived Experiences Implementing Visual Art Standards Related to Culturally Responsive Teaching. This is a article that talks about how art educators can foster equity, and this directly correlates with my goal of using supporting art educators in the classroom to create a more equitable environment. My second article or my second literature source is exploring self and cultural identities through an interdisciplinary model of art education, an illustrated case study and heuristic inquiry. So this quote really stood out to me. My high school art teacher was an ordinary person who related to her students in an extraordinary way through lived experiences. So again, I'm working with kindergartners, so I'm thinking about how can I use the most simple concepts and the most everyday acts of heroic everyday acts to carry out social justice and equity. So some other data that I pulled, this is the High Tech 2023 to 2024 Student Accountability Report Card, and this shows the ethnic and gender breakdown. As we can see, there is about 30, we're looking at about 30% white, 50% Hispanic, and 10% of two or more races, and 6% Asian. So this is something I really have to keep in mind when I'm designing my research and how I can make it appropriate for the community that I'm collaborating with. The other data is the LCAP, Local Control and Accountability Plan from High Tech, and they are a high tech is a project-based learning school, which means that a lot of their standards, for example, looking at number three, nurture a culture of belonging, is equity-based. So this is something I have to keep in mind in with my audience that I'm working with. Getting into the data collection methods, I am likely going to design a short art activity that requires students to reflect on a certain aspect of their social identity. And this research will research how much elementary students, particularly kindergartners, know about their culture in relation to others. So what will this look like? It will probably be look like observations followed by a brief interview asking students to reflect. Um, so looking at my cited sources from earlier, the first one used an arts-based method, which is more an heuristic inquiry, which is more self-research. I'm probably not going to do this because I want to focus on my the kids, and so it's probably going to look more like the second example, which is qualitative interviews and thematic analysis. So they used teacher interviews. I'm probably going to use a combination of both teacher and student interviews. So some limitations and challenges. I do have some time constraints, parental consent. I don't want to disturb classroom curriculum, and because they're kindergartners, I want to make sure it's developmentally appropriate. For that reason, my activity is probably going to be very short, very simple to address pretty much all of these limitations. And these are my source cited. Thank you.